Hey everybody, this is Baird. First act of business is I know this is going to be dumb, especially 4 episodes in, but I want to change the name of my YouTube channel to more fit my social media presence. So from now on, just so that we can coincide with my Instagram, I'm going to start calling this what it is, which is Griffin Watches. That's what I call my Instagram. The reason I chose that name is the Griffin means a lot to me. I'm a Saab enthusiast. The Griffin was a symbol of the Saab, but my name Baird also was my grandmother's family name. They're very proud of it, and the Griffin was the symbol of the Baird. So Bristol Meantime was a cool idea I had, sort of like an online magazine name, but you know, I kind of want to link this to my Instagram presence, which is Griffin_watches, at Griffin_watches on Instagram, where I post a lot of things I work on, what I buy, sell, reviews I do, and stuff like that. I've been writing a few reviews for TwoBrokeWatchSnobs.com. Check those guys out on the podcast. Warning, they do have some foul language, so just be ready for that. But today we're going to talk about something a little different. This is more of a gripe, or, you know, I dare say the word rant. I feel like that's trademarked anymore. But today we're going to talk about the Tissot Seastar and the evolution of the Seastar over 3 generations. And I want to know what Tissot thinks they're doing. So anyway, first off, I have here the 2011 Tissot Seastar. This is the 2nd generation. Let me get some light on it here. This is the 2nd generation Seastar that came out in 2011. I'll show you a 1st generation. So just to start off, this is the 2nd generation, and they upgraded something on this watch, and we'll get to that in a minute. So this generation actually had kind of two faces on it. Had a facelift, like they would say in the car world. But we'll talk about that in a moment. First off, I do want to show you the 1st generation Tissot Seastar, which I don't own. We're going to look at pictures of it. But let me show you that first and kind of get into it. So this is about the best photo I could find of a 1st generation Tissot Seastar, because they're kind of hard to find. These came in a 1000 or a 600 meter watch. The 1000 was automatic. The 600 may have been quartz. That I'm not clear on. This is the one I know the least about. But as you can see, it is, well, I've pushed all kinds of buttons. Hold on just a second. Whoop. Okay, so I found my picture. I found my picture again. Anyway, 1st generation Seastar came in a 1000 or 600. I think the 600 was quartz. As you can see, this is there was my Timex, if you didn't hear it, Timex Digital. As you can see, it was kind of to me, a unique watch, somewhat. You had the kind of the arrowhead hour with the sword minute hand, and then it had an arrow on the 2nd hand. Also, you had the raised indices, so these were 3D, and the bezel itself was painted that black color with the red markers. And you had a coin edge, but it wasn't flat, kind of beveled in. So, you know, it was very kind of unique, and it was sort of went along with Tissot's styling at the time. And you'll see that kind of carry over. So that was the 1st Tissot Seastar. I actually held one of these in person. Very nice watch, robust. I don't know if the links were solid. I believe they were hollow, so that was something they would upgrade in 2011. Now, in 2011, they came to this. They upgraded it to the 2011 Tissot Seastar, which is this one. Now, this one shares some similarities. The case design, very similar, although they added this groove, kind of made it look like a sandwich. You obviously have your signed crown. The bezel was flattened. It no longer kind of curved in. The bezel was flattened and given these markers on the side of it to grip the bezel. Only 60 clicks. The 1st gen was also only 60 clicks, but this one's only a 60 click bezel. So the dial was changed a little bit from the from the first Seastar. The logo no longer had that cool fancy S that looked like a seahorse. You know, this one says Seastar 1000 automatic. This one still had a logo on it, but now it's a stylized font. Doesn't say 300 on it anymore. Does mention that it's automatic. The 300, I think, is mentioned on the back. Yeah, 30 bar, 300 meters. So, same movement in these two, at a 28-24. Splash of color given to this. The hands were changed with the blue second hand. You could also get it in orange. And then, of course, you had your sort of arrowhead, half skeletonized hands, which don't look the same, but you could see where they were coming from. Kind of an, you know, an update. So you could see that. And bracelet, pretty much the same, but now with solid links. Strangely, a 19 millimeter. I don't know why they would do that, but anyway. Bezel also had the raised indices, so 3D kind of touch. It is painted, although the paint was known to chip off these. Doesn't so much on these. And now instead of having those painted, it's just metal. But you can fill them. It's kind of neat. Date window still at 3. Now round and sort of part of the you know, the 3 o'clock marker. Whereas the original had chrome markers, this one's more of like a painted spot with the Arabic 6 and 12 on it. This dial also still had the similar style chapter ring, but it was kind of a flat black bezel. I mean, it's flat black dial, I'm sorry, and you can see the groove right there at the top of the hour hand, and that's basically all you had. Cool blue font on it. You know, and otherwise, other than that, pretty much unchanged. One other major change from the first gen to the second gen is the helium escape valve on a 300-meter watch. But that's neither here nor there. So that's the second generation Seastar. Now, they did make a change to this watch about halfway through, I want to say 2015-16. Basically what they did, the bezel got a change. Bezel got slightly bigger grips around the side of it, and instead of this cool kind of lifted 3D markers on it, which I like because it's unique, you don't see it, they went like everybody else does and put a ceramic bezel in it with markers. And it's not bad looking watch at all. Now, here's my gripe. Here's where it starts to change. It's around this time the Swatch Group decided they were going to build a 80-hour power reserve movement. Okay? That's fine and dandy. But, you know, maybe this is just an opinion of mine and it's kind of stupid. Maybe not. But I feel like when you buy a Swiss watch, you're buying it for that 28,800 beat per minute, or beat per hour, I'm sorry, sweep secondhand. That's what differentiates it from Japanese watches at the same price or what have you. You know, is that high beat, that smooth sweep. Okay? All right. So this only has a 39, 38, 40-hour power reserve. So if you sit this thing down, it's dead in 40 hours. So they want to make an 80-hour power reserve. And how did they do that? Well, they cut the beats down to 21.6. So now your $925 Tissot Seastar beats like a 7S26. There's nothing wrong with that. And it is a more high-tech movement, sure. But, you know, to me, it kind of robs you of that kind of Swiss luxury, you know, and that's a superficial thing. You know, that's an aesthetic that maybe I'm griping about. But I feel like the Powermatic 80 is a little bit of a jip. It's like saying, here's your Ferrari, enjoy your 6-cylinder. That's not what you bought it for. You bought it for the 8-cylinder. You bought it for the 12-cylinder. It may perform the same, but it just isn't. Look at F1 with its 6-cylinder turbos. Yeah, they perform the same. They don't sound the same. It doesn't sound like a luxury car anymore. And I know I'm using the word luxury to describe a $1,000 watch, but my point is, if you're in this bracket, if you're in the $0 to $2,000 bracket, you don't want to be spending all this money for something that just, yeah, it lasts 80 hours, great, but it also ticks around like a cheap watch, sort of. So, Again, that's an aesthetic thing. It's not it's not something that I guess most people will gripe about, but I do. I feel like the switch of Swatch to Powermatic 80 in these and Hamilton's, it's just you know, they're just at a 28-24s that have been modified. You know, that's what it is. But I'm just not a fan of them. And when they changed the face on this, I didn't mind the ceramic bezel. It did have bigger grips, but a 21,600 beat movement turned me off. It just turned me off, and I would rather have this one. So that's how things were for a while. And then Tissot decided to release the Generation 3 last year. Let me find it. Let me start off by saying I have never held one of these in my hand. So it could be different. But while I can see some of the similarities they're trying to do with the 3rd gen versus the 1st gen, that's a good 1st gen photograph. And while I can see some of those similarities, this watch, to me, looks unbelievably cheap. It is plain. The dial is just a plain sunburst with a black chapter ring. The blue hand is gone now for a regular old silver hand that will be lost against that field. Applied indices are nice, but they're nothing special. They've moved the date down to 6 o'clock, which is fine. But for some reason, that circle, you know, just, I don't know. It's sort of just lost on that dial to me. And of course, you've got your ceramic bezel with numbers that resemble the numbers on a 1st generation. You sort of have a bezel that resembles the 1st generation, even though it's flat. But the hands on this watch, they just look cheap. Basic sword hands. It's just not a very good looking watch in my opinion. It just isn't. And I hate to say that because I like a Tissot, but if I looked at that watch and looked at this one sitting next to it for the same amount of money, I'd pick this one. There's just something about this one that's better. This one looks like it's trying to be a Hydra Conquest, and it's failing at it. And I do not understand what Tissot is doing here. Let's see if I can find another picture of it. Here we go. That's kind of their side profile picture. This one's a little fuzzy. Again, here's another example. Everything's written on the back, which is fine. That's the way they all are. But you've got your see-through movement. You've got your steel rotor. I understand that this is aesthetic. But that gold rotor is so much, it breaks it up. It's so much better to look at than that. That looks like something with a Miyota 8215 in it. That looks like, dare I say, an Invicta. Again, Powermatic 80 movement. We want you to spend $1,000 for a watch with the same beat as a $200 watch. Oh, but it lasts 80 hours. Great. So what? I mean, in my opinion, most people wear their watch every day, or they're like me, and they have more watches than they need, and if it, they're not going to wear it. I wouldn't wear it again in 5 days anyway, if I've moved on to a couple other ones. So to me, the 80-hour power reserve is worthless. May be different for you, but to me, regardless of the movement, that is not as good looking. That looks cheap. And that makes me sad because I really like the Tissot Seastar. In fact, I've kept this one for many years because this this was my first Swiss diver. This was my entrance into Swiss watches. And I may never get rid of it because of that. I like this watch a lot. I don't wear it as much as I used to, but I like it. It's beaten up, man. I've put this sucker through the ringer. I've probably had this thing for 5 years. And I don't know what Tissot's doing. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't care. I would rather have the first gen over this one all day long. And it comes in some other colors. But, yeah, that is rough. It's just boring. It's boring and it looks cheap. Those silver hands look so cheap. And I don't know why. But those chromed hands, they look cheap against that field. So, anyway, you know, that's my rant. You know, my little watch tirade. I really shouldn't say rant. I feel like somebody's got that trademarked. So that's my little tirade about that. And I've kind of been wanting to get that off my chest for a while. So anyway, I forgot to do the wrist check like everybody does. But today I'm wearing my 1968 Bulova mechanical with the 11 BL movement. This watch belonged to my grandfather. I cleaned it up. I stripped it, serviced it, and adjusted the bead on it. Now it keeps great time, and it looks good. It's a little small on my 7.5 inch wrist, but it looks really good. But I've worn this watch all day, and it's been perfect. And like I said, it's not perfect. You could probably, the crystal was really scratched when I got it, so I had to smooth it out a little bit, and it's still got a couple of deep places in it. So I mean, there's obviously more work I could do, but it's a good looking little watch. Obviously, the strap is a Hadley Roma, brown leather, because the original band was gone. But anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed my little tirade about Tissot's new Seastar. I would say if you could find one of these, you should pick it up. Other than the fact there are very few strap choices because it's a 19 millimeter. It's a very nice and robust watch, has a good weight. You know, the bracelet for what was a $925 watch. Little Chinsky, you know, your basic stamped steel clasps, but it does have a diver's extension. So a little, you know, bracelet's a little Chinsky. I would say the bracelet itself is probably the weakest part of the watch, other than the fact that, you know, Super Luminova is not as good as Seiko's proprietary paint. It does last a long time, but doesn't get very bright. However, this one is blue. Do not know what the new one is. Could not tell you. But, you know, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to put out something every week. Just remember that we are changing the name to Griffin Watches. I promise it won't be like Christopher Ward. We won't change the name and the logo 27 times. That's what it's going to be. Check me out on Instagram at Griffin_watches for my journey through life with watches. So maybe there's, you know, I'm an affordable guy, so my watches all range from about 0 to 2,000. I do have some watches I'm going to be reviewing soon. So like I said, please like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, I'm Baird Brown. You've been great. Thank you very much for watching, and you all have a great, great week.